It's early morning. You're standing by the kitchen window with a warm cup of coffee, just watching the garden wake up like it always does. A sparrow lands on the feeder, a robin hops along the fence. Completely normal. Nothing you'd ever think twice about. But today, something feels off. A starling lands right on the edge of the bird bath and just stops. It doesn't drink. It doesn't bathe. It just sits there, completely frozen, staring into space. 10 seconds pass, then 20. You keep waiting for it to shake its feathers or just fly away like they always do. But it doesn't. Honestly, you've probably seen 1,000 mornings just like this one. But you've never seen a bird do that. And right then, in the back of your mind, this quiet, kind of uneasy question starts to form one you won't be able to shake for the rest of this video. Here's the thing most people don't realize. We usually think of birds as pretty simple creatures. You know, they eat, they sing, they fly, and that's it. But researchers who actually study avian behavior will tell you something most of us never learn. Birds are one of the most sensitive early warning systems in the entire natural world. Their bodies can literally pick up on changes that we, as humans, can't perceive at all. So, that frozen starling on the bird bath, it's not just resting. And it isn't sick, at least, not in the way you'd think. What you're looking at is a documented behavioral response, and once you understand what actually triggers it, you will never look at your backyard the same way again. Because if it's happening in one garden, there's a really good chance it's happening in yours too, right now, and you simply haven't noticed it yet. Look, here's why this actually matters. Birds don't just panic for no reason. Their nervous systems have been tuned by millions of years of pure survival. So every single flinch, every freeze, every sudden quiet means something. When a bird stops acting like a bird, it's not just being dramatic. It's reacting to a threat that hasn't reached you yet, but it will. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what these frozen moments, broken songs, and empty skies are actually trying to tell you. We're talking about how to read your own backyard, like the early warning system it really is, before whatever they're sensing shows up at your doorstep. Stick with me here because the deeper we go into this, the stranger, and honestly, the more important it gets. And hey, if you've been looking for a channel that actually teaches you to notice the stuff most people just walk straight past, you might want to hit subscribe right now, because we're really only getting started. Let's go back to that starling for a second. Ornithologists actually have a name for this specific posture, tonic immobility. But it's not sleep, and it's not some kind of sickness. It's a full-body freeze response. It's the exact same reflex that makes a rabbit go completely rigid when a predator's shadow passes over it. Now, normally, a bird only does this for a few seconds, just long enough to hide from a hawk flying overhead. But recently, field observers in a bunch of different countries have logged something really weird. Starlings freezing for minutes at a time, right there in gardens with absolutely no predator in sight. No cat, no hawk, no obvious danger anywhere. So, what are they actually freezing from? Well, some researchers think it has to do with pressure-sensitive receptors inside a bird's inner ear. These organs are so incredibly fine-tuned that they can pick up barometric shifts way before a storm even shows up on radar. So a sudden, invisible drop in air pressure could be enough to just lock a starling's body in place, almost like it's bracing for something it feels coming from miles away. But here's the part that gets a little unsettling. In several of these recorded cases, no storm ever came, which means the starling wasn't reacting to the weather at all. It was reacting to something else. Do me a favor and just listen closely to your garden tomorrow morning. Somewhere underneath the usual chirps and calls, you might catch something that sounds almost broken. Like a song that starts out totally strong and then suddenly fractures into these short, jagged bursts, almost like a radio losing its signal. See, birdsong isn't just random noise. It's incredibly structured, learned, and remarkably consistent. A male robin will sing the exact same core pattern for years, so when that pattern suddenly falls apart, it means something in the bird's internal rhythm has been completely disrupted. Acoustic researchers studying birds in the city and suburbs have picked up on a pattern that's worth sitting with for a second. They've noticed that right before a local environmental disturbance, like a sudden shift in temperature, a chemical drift, or even underground vibrations too small for us to feel but big enough to mess with airflow, the bird songs start to fracture. The bird isn't losing its voice, really. It's losing its composure. And a bird that can't hold its song steady is a bird whose entire sensory world has just been flipped upside down. If you've ever heard this happen and just brushed it off as a weird bird, you might have already missed the first warning shot. Here's something almost no one notices. Birds don't just randomly fly over your garden. A lot of species actually run a quiet, highly structured migration right through it. They use the same feeder, the exact same 3 trees, the same flight path, day after day, just like clockwork. But then, out of nowhere, that clockwork breaks. The regulars just vanish. And I don't mean one or two of them. Entire flocks that used to pass through at 7 a.m. sharp simply stop showing up. Days go by. Then a week. Your garden, which used to be this busy junction of wings and noise, just goes quiet. And it feels wrong. Honestly, this isn't just random. Migratory birds build incredibly detailed mental maps of safe corridors, routes they know are free of predators, danger, and disruption. When a corridor becomes unsafe, even in a way we can't see or feel, they reroute almost instantly. They'll shift an entire local population away from whatever it is they're avoiding, which leaves you with a pretty uncomfortable question. If hundreds of birds suddenly decided your garden wasn't safe anymore, what exactly did they know that you didn't? Now, here's where things get really strange. In a few different neighborhoods, right before these disruptions peak, people notice something that honestly makes no sense. Songbirds and their natural predators like hawks, crows, even owls were just sitting there, completely calm around each other. No chasing, no alarm calls, no flying away. In the natural world, this just doesn't happen. A songbird's entire survival depends on treating a predator like an immediate life or death threat. So when a sparrow perches 10 feet away from a hawk and neither one moves, biologists think both species might be reacting to something much bigger than their usual hierarchy, like a shared higher priority threat that temporarily overrides the food chain itself. Predator and prey just on the same side for a minute. It's the kind of thing that's almost never caught on camera. Mostly because it only lasts for a few minutes before everything goes back to normal, or the birds just vanish entirely. And in the neighborhoods where researchers actually managed to catch it, what happened next is the part that really made scientists sit up. This is the piece that changes everything. See, birds navigate and talk to each other using a sensitivity to frequency that goes way beyond what we can hear or perceive. We're talking magnetic fields, infrasound, and subtle vibrations moving through the soil and air. It's an ancient system built over millions of years, and it is incredibly precise. But our modern environments are flooded with artificial signals that didn't even exist a century ago. Signals that can mess with, mimic, or completely overwhelm those natural frequencies. In several studied cases, the exact moment these backyard disruptions started lined up almost perfectly with new infrastructure turning on nearby. The bird's internal compass, tuned for millennia to a clean signal, suddenly hit something it was never built to filter out. The frozen starling, the fractured song, the empty migration corridor, the uneasy truce between predator and prey. They weren't separate events at all. They were 4 symptoms of the exact same disruption, a signal spreading invisibly through your garden, and every single bird in it was reacting in real time. Now put it all together. One frozen bird is just a curiosity. A broken song is unsettling. An empty garden is strange. But when all 4 of these signs stack on top of each other in the same place around the same time, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And patterns like this don't just happen by accident. Field researchers who've tracked these overlapping signs across multiple properties are starting to ask a question that should make anyone pause. What if birds aren't just reacting to environmental stress? What if they're reacting to something actively changing and escalating right as we watch? Because in every single documented case where all 4 signs showed up together, something happened next. Every single time. So there was this incredibly detailed case study where researchers tracked just one single suburban block, and over 11 days they watched this bizarre pattern start to build. Birds are just freezing in place. Their songs sound fractured, entire flocks disappearing, and even this weird, eerie truce between predators and prey. Then, on the 12th day, the garden went completely silent. And I don't mean quiet, I mean silent. No birds, no insects, no even the wind moving the leaves. Just 6 hours later, a hyper-localized anomaly slammed right into that exact block. It was a sudden, violent microburst. It literally toppled trees and knocked out the power. But here's the crazy part. Neighborhoods just a few streets over didn't feel a single thing. See, the birds hadn't just sensed that something was coming. They had precisely, repeatedly predicted the exact location days before any instrument humans owned could pick up a single thing. Honestly, they weren't behaving strangely at all. They were warning everyone. Well, everyone who was actually paying attention. So think back to that starling on your bird bath, the one that was frozen and silent while you were just sipping your morning coffee. It wasn't broken, it wasn't confusing. It was doing exactly what its ancestors have done for millions of years, reading a world that you and I have almost completely lost the ability to hear. The next time your garden goes still, in a way that just feels wrong, don't just brush past it. You're not just looking at a quiet morning. You're looking at the last visible seconds of a warning system that is older than language itself. And the thing is, it's still working, right outside your window. You just have to be willing to notice it. I'm curious, has your garden never gone completely quiet like this? In a way you couldn't really explain? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and I really want to know if you've ever felt this too.